Hello guys, Crispy here and welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing the GeForce RTX 2060 6GB model in Hogwarts Legacy. This one is the Palit version of the card. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers as usual, and I am not overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Ups. GPU Z, it has 6 gigs of GDDR6, 1920 CUDA cores, and it released back in 2019. And over on the left, we're pairing it with an i5-13600K and 32GB of RAM. DDR5 at 6000 MHz. The i5 is overclocked to 5.6 GHz. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's start at the 1080p resolution using DLAA, which is by far the best anti-aliasing in this game. Like, TAA just looks super soft, and TAA on high actually performs worse than DLAA, so this is the way to go. We're also going to test it with DLSS and at higher resolutions as well. And on the advanced settings, we're using the recommended preset, which is the medium settings preset without ray tracing. Alright, I like what I am seeing right away, guys. 70s, 80s, and 90 FPS at times. And, oh boy, it's dropping into the 60s. But the game looks really, really good at 1080p medium settings. If you have a 1080p monitor, you can play it absolutely fine at native res on a 2060. However, it is dropping a little bit more than what than what I expected. Okay, into the 60s at times. I thought the 2060 was gonna be a little bit faster. Like the RX 6600 XT completely wrecked this GPU in this game. Apparently, it got like 100 plus FPS on average or so using these same settings. Also, the water is super intensive in this game, especially whenever you come across like little waterfalls like this one right here. And well, it's not really dropping that much, which is nice. Like with the RX 58, what the heck is happening now? I'm stuck. Okay, there we go. With the RX 580, I saw a ton of drops near water, guys. It was completely crazy. I actually never expected it to perform that poorly, especially because things like the GTX Titan and GTX 970 actually didn't drop as much near water. So yeah, and those are older cards than the RX 580. But anyways, some weird optimization going on there for sure. But with the RTX 2060, well, it's a recent-ish card, I guess. It's only 4 years old at the moment, and it still performs pretty well. You know, it was pretty expensive back when it released. It was also very powerful. And you can play the game absolutely fine above 60 frames per second at all times if you want the 1080p native experience in medium settings. So no issues right here. You know what? We're gonna go to Hogsmeade since a lot of people like me to test it there. This is more of a CPU-bound scenario, and it's not good for testing GPUs because you actually end up getting more frames per second than out in the woods and near rivers and stuff like that, and that's what we're seeing right here. Whenever we're not CPU-bound, the FPS will be higher in these more intensive places for a lot of people, because a lot of people will actually be CPU bottlenecked in this game. Say, for example, you have Ryzen 5 3600 with the 2060, you're likely gonna see some drops below 60 frames per second, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm gonna keep benchmarking it in the woods, and I'm gonna change the settings a little bit right now. I want to test it out with Nvidia DLSS on quality, bump up that sharpness a little bit, and this should give us a major improvement in FPS. Look at that, 100 plus right now here in Hogsmeade. So, and we're still not CPU bound completely, right? Like, GPU usage is still up into the 90s. Okay, now it's dropping a little bit in this area. Yeah, now we're actually CPU bound. So we're reaching the limits of the i5 13600K at 5.6 GHz. It's not a problem though, it's still pretty smooth, aside from a couple of stutters here and there, but it's just normal. I learned to live with it, and they actually improved on that a little bit as well. It's not even dropping too much from 100 frames per second, even in water scenarios like this one, and as you saw previously, this is where the FPS tend to drop the most. Wow. That's crazy. Actually, the 580 dropped to like half of the FPS near these waterfalls. And here the 2060, I'm trying to make it drop, you know, seeing a lot of water on screen, but nope, it is not dropping. So these waterfalls are not... Shut up. I know all roads lead to Hogsmeade because you always tell me that like every freaking single time. It's either that or, is that a place more cozy than Hogsmeade? Yeah, I know. You don't need to repeat yourself so much. Let's get out of here. See the FPS near that forest. Yeah, over there. That seems to be pretty intensive. Oh yeah, and I can also boost like this. Go really, really fast, as you can see. Not a problem, guys. Still GPU bound most of the time. GPU usage is, yeah, at 99% right now in the forest area, which again is more GPU bound. So it's a better test for GPU performance because it drops more when you're GPU bound. Yeah, 90s, lower 90s at times. Not a problem, guys. This is really, really nice experience. If you prefer that little bit smoother of a frame rate with a high refresh rate monitor, you can actually take advantage of it here with DLSS. And DLSS still looks better on quality at 1080p than the TAA does. So, say for example you have an AMD GPU that doesn't have a DLAA, or an older GTX card like the 1080 Ti, for example, this would look better than those cards at native 1080p resolution with high TAA. But on those cards, I actually recommend FSR2, which looks pretty good as well, and it delivers around the same FPS as DLSS. So yeah, nothing to complain about. Even the 1% lows are above 60 here, and not too much stuttering. Alright, we're back here at 1440p using DLAA, so native resolution again, using the recommended settings, medium settings. I wouldn't really lower it to low, even if we don't get 60 plus all of the time at 1440p, because low looks way worse than medium. And here we are, getting around 60 frames per second. It's not bad, it's already dropping though, but again, I would much rather have this experience with a few drops below 60 here and there, and not too many stuttering issues, you know, than the low settings experience at 1440p, because it just looks really, really bad compared to this. Here in the forest, well, it is dropping even from 50 frames per second, so it gets quite intensive, as you can see. Yep, 45 right there. Let's get near the water here. Yeah, 47. Really, really intensive, guys, but it is still playable. It has a few more stuttering issues than previously, though. I think whenever you drop from 60 FPS, it starts stuttering a bit more in this game. That's how it's made, I guess. 45, 44 right there. This is a really intensive area, by the way. These waterfalls. But yeah, it's playable still, definitely. If you have a 1440p monitor and you like that native resolution experience, this is pretty good. Again, it's a single-player title. You don't really need 60 plus FPS all of the time, and I think I would be fine with this experience. I played like 3 hours with the GTX 1050 Ti, and that card dropped below 30 frames per second quite often, and I was still fine with it. Like, it wasn't an amazing experience, and sometimes the stuttering would actually hinder the experience a bit, but, you know, overall, it was still playable, and I still could enjoy my time, even with the 1050 Ti. So, of course, a 2060 at 1440p will deliver a great experience. Well, a good experience, not great. Great would be 60 plus, and amazing would be like 100 plus, you know. But yeah, it is definitely still playable, guys. All right, let's stop it there. Come on, can I stop? Can I stop? Please, stop moving. What the heck are you doing? I just wanted him to decelerate. How do I do that? All right, there we go. So 53 FPS average and 37 1% lows. Again, in Hogsmeade, it would get slightly higher FPS, as well as in Hogwarts. But in Hogwarts, it actually ends up stuttering a bit more, and I don't really like it. But it's all because of CPU, I guess, because it's even more CPU bound there. Let's go DLSS on quality and bump up that sharpness a little here. And this is probably the way to go at 1440p, guys. All right, so instead of getting like 50s here, just standing by, looking at the view it's getting 80. So another major improvement once again. Just by enabling DLSS, and at 1440p, that quality DLSS does look really, really impressive. Like, if you didn't like the look of it at 1080p, I doubt you will not like the look of it at 1440, because it's almost indistinguishable from native resolution, especially if you're using DLAA at native res. If you're using TAA, again, it is even better looking than that. Is that Hogsmeade right there? Yes, it is. I can't really fly in Hogsmeade, I think. Maybe? Yeah, I can't. Okay. Well, let's just take a look at it. All right, guys? Also, I've seen that I actually helped some people with this previously. But yeah, you need to go invisible to open these chests. There we go. 500 coins. Beautiful stuff. It might actually start stuttering a little bit more here in Hogsmeade, guys. I saw a couple of stutters already. Oh, hello, Jack. Wait a second. We gotta pet this bastard. How's it going, buddy? It's probably like a human turned into a cat, but hey, it's still a cat, so it's cute every time. But as I was saying, it might stutter a little bit more than at 1080p, but it is not really too much of an issue, especially... There we go, another big stutter right there. But especially if you lock the FPS to 60, it won't ever drop from 60 with DLSS, as we saw already. Like, the minimums were at like 70 or 60 something previously. Flying over the water, damn, that's stuttering quite a bit now, actually. But yes, since the minimums were higher than 60, locking it to 60 FPS in Rivet Tuner or Nvidia control panel, not with the built-in FPS cap of the game, will actually make it a lot smoother. I've seen that with the i7-4770K video, for example. That was a stuttery, unplayable mess without a cap, but once we capped it in Rivet Tuner, it was buttery smooth. Lastly, 4K resolution using DLAA, again, native res at medium settings. This is where those 6GB will definitely get saturated, and it's probably going to be a terrible experience. Here we go, starting in Hogsmeade to see all of that good stutter, you know. Look at that frame time graph, dude. That is terrible. Again, the lower you are from 60 frames per second, the more the game stutters and the weirder the frame time looks. It's just, it's really... God damn it. Okay, every time he says that. Oh boy, anyways, oof. The bushes are just wrecking it, dude. Look at this. Wow, crazy stuff. Dropping into the lower 20s. You'd think that, well, it's 30 FPS. If I lock it to 30 FPS and overclock the card a little bit, it might actually end up being playable, you know. That was a rough one. But then you get inside of some bushes. What the heck? It drops so much. Okay, yeah, this is terrible. Nobody should use this. Let's try it with DLSS on quality. Bump up that sharpness again. Because, again, the game is really, really soft without the sharpening. Wow, okay. 40s. That is way better. It went from being completely unplayable to actually being decent. Yeah. It's not dropping too much, not even from 40 frames per second anymore, even inside of the bushes. However, that VRAM is definitely maxed out, so again, it might end up stuttering more than it did previously. I'm impressed that it didn't really stutter too much so far, at least. Oh no, your gear slots are full. Okay, no, the chest's still there, alright. I thought we just wasted a chest or something. I actually wasted quite a few chests in the main story just because the gear slots were full. So make sure to sell your gear that you don't need, you know. We should pass the time a little because it's getting nighttime and I don't like it too much. Oh, the stuttering is happening. I think it's because it's starting to load in more textures and stuff like that as we fly around, like... Yeah, it just can't keep up with the 6 GB of VRAM, unfortunately, guys. It was pretty decent even for 1440p, but at 4K, it gets wrecked. Alright, let's see it in the forest a little. For a lot of people, this still might be a decent experience, but if you have the option to play at a lower resolution with much more stable frame rates, I would definitely take it. Look at that, it's dropping so much. 31 FPS minimum, I think. Wow, that is crazy. Maybe it was loading something again. I don't know, but this is just unhealthy. For the 2060, okay? Let's try it out with DLSS on balanced first. Just to see if it gets a little bit smoother. It might require a bit less VRAM to run. I don't know. Look at that. 50s still, 40s. Yeah, it didn't improve our FPS by too much. But it feels a slight bit more smooth, I guess. It's not too bad. Yeah, okay, let's start counting the FPS. It might actually be possible for you to play this kind of well, even at 4K, if you keep things with DLSS balanced and on medium settings overall. It's not bad. How am I flying so much? I'm not losing the stamina on my broom. Okay, now it's starting to lose it. Okay, never mind. But yeah, I think it is stuttering a little bit less, although it's still far away from 60 frames per second. And again, the 1440p experience was superior. Sorry about that. The camera just stopped the recording for a second there. But yeah, this is it, I think. It gets down into the 40s. It might actually drop from 40 sometimes, since we are so close to 40 frames per second right here already. But it is okay. It is still an alright experience, and definitely way more stable than with DLSS quality. What about DLSS performance? I've played a lot of games with DLSS performance on my 3060 Ti at 4K resolution, especially when I had a smaller monitor, like 27 inches. Yep, that was it. And it still looked great at 27 or 28 inches and 4K with DLSS performance. So this is still a pretty reasonable way to play this. Doesn't look too different. You can start telling, especially on a bigger monitor like the one that I'm using, 42 inches, that it's a bit softer. It's starting to get way softer than DLSS balanced or quality, especially in the grass and the trees and stuff, but it doesn't look bad. I mean, it kind of looks like the TAA implementation at native resolution, so that's pretty impressive in its own. Yeah, another stutter, like, yeah, that frame time is still pretty terrible, guys, and that RAM and VRAM usage are still really, really high up there. Yeah, I mean, what the hell was that? Those were some weird artifacts at the distance. Magic, it's magic. Yes, it's always magic. All right, guys, I just restarted the game. I haven't been to this place yet. Interesting. And oof, I think we're playing with DLSS on performance still. Wait a second. No, it's not. Okay, it looked really soft at 1080p here. The LAA does make a huge difference. So let's set it to that 1080p, and we're using no upscaling and the high settings preset now. It's looking alright. Now that we enabled the LAA, it's looking pretty decent actually, but it is already dropping quite a bit from 60 frames per second. That's like the difference from medium to high. It does look amazing on high settings, by the way, because you got dynamic shadows around everything. It looks really insane, especially at night with the Lumos thing on your wand. That frame time is terrible because it is dropping from 60 FPS sometimes, and although it's not stuttering as much as it did at 4K, so this is actually playable, it drops too much from 60 FPS, and I think you should definitely utilize DLSS if you're playing at 1080p high settings. That's exactly what we're gonna do, of course. Here we go. Quality, increase that sharpness a bit, and it starts looking pretty similar to what we were seeing before with DLAA at native res, but the FPS are way higher, and that frame time is a bit more stable. It's not as spiky as previously, right? It's a bit flatter. So it indicates a way, way smoother experience and way better one at the same time. All right, we're out of Hogsmeade. It's actually dropping a lot now. Look at that, 60 FPS, 62? This isn't really a super intensive area, right? Holy crap, that is crazy. Oh, it's actually dropping from 60, even with DLSS at high settings. See, guys, high is so much more intensive. I'm not sure if it's worth it over medium settings, even though it looks way better than medium in this game. I'm not sure if I would trade those super buttery smooth 60 plus all of the time. Well, not super buttery smooth because it stutters still. But yeah, I'm not sure if I would trade that for a suboptimal experience with less than 60 FPS at times in more intensive scenarios. Interesting. I was actually expecting it to get 60 plus all of the time here with DLSS enabled, and it's getting it right now in this forest area right here. But back there, I'm not sure why. That area was really intensive, guys. Let's go near the waterfall, yeah. See how much it drops around here. Not too much, so that is good. That is good. Oh yeah, but this area right here was the most intensive one with the waterfalls. 66 minimum. Interesting. I didn't really notice in previous videos that that other area where it dropped from 60 was the most intensive area. But I guess we found another most intensive area here. I was getting pretty worried that it would drop a lot from 60 in the vegetation areas and forest areas and stuff like that. But since it isn't, I think high is pretty decent still. Of course, you guys choose whatever you want. I do think that this looks way better though, and it might actually be worth it. Finally, let's play at 1440p using the LAA and the high settings. I'm not going to test ultra settings because there's just no point. It looks really similar to high and it's way more intensive again, so yeah, you shouldn't do it on the 2060. It's also very, very VRAM hungry. Wow, it's looking fantastic at 1440p, guys. And I'm also not going to test 4K and high settings because it already struggled a lot on medium settings, so there's no point again. High settings at 1440p would be the maximum I would go to if you really want a good visual fidelity with high pixel density at 1440p, you know. Anyways, oof, dropping so close to 30 FPS here near the water, and it's stuttering so much sometimes that I'm not sure if I would choose this. I would definitely enable DLSS at this resolution, honestly, but yeah, if you are looking for that 30 FPS experience, again, you can probably lock it to 30, maybe overclock the card a little if you want to make sure that you don't drop ever from 30 FPS, and it's gonna be fine. Also, during fights and stuff like that, I'm not fighting here in this game, but it's usually kind of the same as flying around, so no worries there. It doesn't really have massive drops, even with all of the effects and stuff. So that's fine. Guys, I don't think this is a very wise option, especially because you can get so much higher FPS with DLSS enabled. So let's do that, and this is it, okay? DLSS on quality, up the sharpness a little here, and now we are getting 60-something FPS. That's way more impressive. Wow. Honestly, I was thinking maybe 50s, mid-50s on average or so, but no, this is pretty damn good. All right, I like it. I could definitely play like this if you don't mind the suboptimal experience. Again, like a few drops here and there from 60. It's already dropping here, by the way. This is a decent experience at 1440p. Just keep in mind that it will stutter a little bit more. I think that's been it for this one, my friends. Massive stutter there. Normal stuff. Again. Anyway, you guys choose your poison, of course. I showed you a lot of different settings and resolutions, and that's been it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one very soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.